Life sometimes reveals a silent miracle. The energy of the chosen ones is so profound, so unique, that even the most powerful, the most influential, cannot help being drawn to it. Your presence is like the sun shining on a stormy day, guiding those seeking direction in the darkness, drawing hearts even among the crowds. Today, you attract the attention of those people in high places around you who cannot resist you, who follow you, who find peace and inspiration in the vibration of your presence. Remember, true light cannot be hidden, and no one can ignore it. Embrace this power now. Write 22 in the comments. Don't just be a spectator, be a part of the story. With your support, we will become a huge family of 5,000 people. Subscribe now, turn on notifications, and join us. Because every soul touched by your energy is stepping into their own journey of transformation. Imagine walking into a quiet chapel at sunrise when the stained glass is just beginning to glow and all the old shadows melt away with the first touch of daylight. There's no need for an announcement or fanfare. The atmosphere simply shifts, and the space itself seems to wake up, as if every stone remembers the sound of hope. This is the effect your presence has in the lives of others. Gentle, yet so profound, it rearranges the very foundation of the room. People who once held court, commanding the attention and loyalty of everyone around them, suddenly grow restless in their own seats. They find that their practiced routines no longer captivate, their tricks fall flat, and the certainty they wore like armor now feels more like a costume at the wrong party. It isn't the volume of your words or the size of your gestures that upends the balance. It's the quiet authority, the rooted confidence that radiates from a soul who's done the work and walked through the fire. When you arrive, the old structures of manipulation and control can't hold their shape. The strongest bars are exposed as little more than brittle twigs, easily snapped by the breeze of authentic presence. It's as if the entire show was only ever held together by suggestion, and now the spell is broken by one who lives in the reality of truth. You don't need to shout to be heard. Your authenticity has a gravity of its own, drawing honest hearts closer and scattering those whose power depended on deception. Where once people wore masks, layer upon layer, to fit the expectations and stories spun around them, your arrival inspires a shedding of pretense. The whole world has been playing dress-up, reciting lines from a tired script, but you step through the door as yourself, and suddenly others remember how good it feels to be real. It's not always dramatic. Sometimes the greatest changes happen quietly. The air grows lighter. People begin to breathe deeper. Even the most controlling personalities sense the tide turning, as if the ocean itself has shifted course beneath their feet. They realize that no amount of posturing can withstand the certainty of someone who stands in their own light. The games end, not with a bang, but with a simple, graceful exit, like a magician packing up his illusions, knowing he's been seen through by someone who isn't playing along. There's a kind of peace that follows you, an invitation for others to put down their burdens and step into something freer. The anxious chatter fades, the need to impress dissolves, and all that's left is the possibility of a new way forward. You don't force anyone to change, but in your company, old habits lose their hold. The same room that was once heavy with competition and insecurity becomes fertile ground for honesty, forgiveness, and growth. Don't just read the stories, experience them. Subscribe and step inside. What you carry isn't loud or showy, but it's undeniably powerful. Like the first rain after a drought, your presence nourishes what was withering, awakens what was dormant, and brings out color where things once seemed gray. Even those who built their lives around controlling others feel the pull of something more genuine, and many find themselves stepping back, uncertain but relieved to finally drop the act. In your presence, they taste freedom and remember that it was always within reach. People may not always understand what's changed, but they feel it deep in their bones. They remember you long after you've left, not because of the words you spoke, but because of the way you made them feel seen, safe, and inspired to drop their own masks. Where others tried to dominate by force, you lead by example, making room for everyone's unique melody to rise in the great song of life. Over time, the story becomes clear. You didn't defeat anyone. You simply stood firm, allowed your spirit to shine, and let the truth rearrange the stage. The world rearranges itself around those who stand in light. There is no contest, no rivalry, only the natural return of order and authenticity. You are proof that one person, living with courage and sincerity, can change the energy of an entire room. And sometimes, that's all it takes to start changing the world. Picture a garden at dawn, mist still clinging to the petals, the world wrapped in that quiet moment before sunlight bursts through the trees. In that hush, every blade of grass is both hidden and revealed. Dew makes everything glisten, yet the shapes remain mysterious, undefined, full of promise. This is how your spirit moves through the world, cloaked in gentleness, yet untouchable by forces that wish to bend you to their will. Where others announce themselves with noise and insistence, you step forward with the assurance of a spring breeze, soft, invisible, but strong enough to move mountains over time. You don't live at the surface where things are easily labeled or contained. Your presence carries the quiet wisdom of the river, adapting to any curve in its path, never losing itself no matter how the landscape changes. People who pride themselves on their certainty, who've built their lives on fixed answers and well-worn labels, quickly find themselves adrift when they meet you. They expect straight lines and sharp corners, but you offer winding paths and gentle turns, a living paradox they cannot measure. The harder they try to define you, the more you slip through their grasp, like sand sliding through their fingers. It's your vulnerability that disarms, your calm that unmasks. When someone arrives with hidden intentions or a strategy carefully crafted to take advantage, they find themselves standing in front of a mirror, one that reflects not just your softness, but their own designs. You don't push, you don't accuse, you simply create an atmosphere so honest and open that any mask becomes too heavy to wear. Opportunists come searching for a target and end up speaking truths they never meant to reveal, because the air around you doesn't support pretense. It's like standing in a gentle rain that quietly washes away layers of dust and disguise, leaving only what is living and true. You're the living paradox, as inviting as an open gate in summer, yet as secure as a fortress built on faith. While others scramble to stake their claims or prove their worth, you rest in the unshakable assurance that your value doesn't come from validation or applause. The deeper someone tries to dig for your weakness, the more they discover an endless well of peace, one that isn't shaken by suspicion, nor depleted by confession. Those looking for flaws to exploit only find their own motives revealed in the clarity of your gaze. The world has always struggled with the unfamiliar, and you are a mystery that can't be solved by old formulas. Yet, you offer yourself without fear, knowing that light has nothing to lose from exposure. Each day, you choose to walk in truth, letting your yes be yes and your no be no. not because you have something to prove, but because you are at peace with the shifting tides. Others may feel unsettled by your refusal to be defined or boxed in, but the ones who are ready for real connection find sanctuary in your presence. In your company, the old games lose their appeal. Conversations deepen, posturing falls away, and what's left is the kind of communion that can't be manufactured or forced. You don't require loyalty by demand or affection by agreement. Your authenticity draws out the same in those who are willing and gently sends others on their way if they're not. Through you, people remember that it's possible to be soft and strong, mysterious and clear, giving and discerning, all at the same time. Over and over you prove that true spiritual power is found in the paradox, the willingness to be seen, yet remain undefined, the courage to love, yet withhold nothing of yourself, the grace to reveal, but never betray, your own depths. Like the mist that nourishes the earth, without clinging to any single flower, your presence renews every space you touch and teaches that the real treasures of the soul are never owned, only experienced. And in that freedom, you become the gentle force that quietly changes the world, not by conquering, but by being wholly, wondrously yourself. Imagine a great oak standing in the middle of a field after a thunderstorm has passed, the ground still glistening, the air scented with newness, and the sky wide open above. That's what your spirit brings when you step into a room or enter someone's life. There's no more turmoil, no wind to whip up confusion, just a gentle clarity that settles over everything, encouraging others to breathe deeply for the first time in a long while. You're not loud about it. Your strength is the kind that reassures without words, like the sunlight quietly drying the last of the rain from trembling leaves. You carry a stillness that draws people near because it's in your presence that their own unrest comes into focus. Like looking at your reflection in the surface of a peaceful lake, people can see the places where their hearts have been battered or bruised, not to be judged, but simply to be witnessed. Instead of rushing to hide or defend those wounds, they feel invited to lay them down, trusting that they'll be received with gentleness. Your way of seeing is like a balm, soothing, yet honest enough to inspire real change. Legends, miracles, prophecies. Subscribe to see what history forgot. Where once there was fertile ground for schemes and secrecy, your energy turns the soil barren for anything false. Power games and hidden motives shrivel under the gaze of your authenticity. It's as if the very air around you is different, lighter, impossible to carry, lies in for long. People who once depended on shadowy strategies find themselves unable to operate in your environment, not because you've confronted them, but because the ground itself will not support what they're trying to grow. Communities that once thrived on whispered alliances or the unspoken agreement to look away from wrongdoing slowly begin to crumble when you arrive. It's not about rooting out the rotten fruit one by one, but about changing the climate so that what's rotten simply can't take hold. The atmosphere you create leaves no room for pretense. Masks slip off and real conversations begin. Folks start to remember how good it feels to breathe without fear, to speak without calculation, to relate without guarding every word. It's your example, not your instruction, that plants the seeds of liberation. Just by being wholly yourself, unchained by the opinions or control of others, you model a new way of living. People see what's possible when the heart isn't shackled by shame or the spirit by fear. They begin to taste a freedom they forgot was possible. And in that taste, the desire to stay small or hidden, withers away. No sermon is needed. Your presence alone is enough to shift the weather in a soul. You never have to announce your impact. Quietly, steadily, you become the landmark others navigate by, the tree that remains standing long after the storm has moved on. When old habits of manipulation or secrecy try to take root, they find no purchase in your soil. Where others may have felt trapped or resigned to playing roles that didn't fit, you bring the possibility of a truer, lighter existence. What you offer isn't a challenge or a threat. It's an invitation. The air is fresher here, the burden's lighter, and healing finally feels possible. In this clearing you create, the world seems bigger, hope grows taller, and nobody wants to go back to the darkness. That is the miracle you bring. Chosen one, you are the after-storm calm that makes everything new. Think of a wellspring bubbling up from the earth in the middle of a desert, a living stream that changes the whole landscape just by existing. You are that hidden water, nourishing dry roots and bringing color back where life had faded. It's not the words you speak or the banners you wave that change the scenery. It's the life force running through you, spreading out to touch every blade of grass, every tired traveler who happens upon your shade. When people cross your path, they often feel it before they understand it, a quiet sense that their old stories don't fit quite so tightly anymore. Like a gentle rainfall after a long drought, your presence softens the hardened ground around them. The crust of old beliefs and worn-out loyalties begins to give way, and suddenly, seeds that were buried and forgotten start to sprout. You don't have to dig up the whole field. It's the moisture in your spirit that does the work. You've walked through enough deserts yourself to know the difference between real nourishment and empty promises. That's why, when others find themselves parched for purpose or clarity, they are drawn to you without quite knowing why. The ones who used to follow strict maps and loud voices begin to question whether those old paths were ever leading them home. The authority figures, once so certain in their positions, sense the ground shifting beneath their feet, not because you challenge them directly, but because the water level is rising and everyone can feel it. The difference you make isn't about having the right answers. It's about making it safe for people to ask better questions. It's about being the first one to step out into the open, to live from a place of honest hope, so others can remember what it feels like to do the same. Your very presence seems to rewrite the code of possibility. Those who were resigned to a lifetime of drought start to wonder if there could be a harvest after all. What you carry can't be handed out in seminars or copied from someone else's blueprint. It's a current that runs deeper than logic, a wisdom that descends in quiet moments the way rain soaks the earth. Leaders and seekers, the lost and the restless, find themselves pausing in your shade. Some come with questions, others just to rest, but all leave with something changed, something refreshed in the way they see themselves and the world around them. The beauty of your impact is that you don't force transformation, you allow it. Like a garden that grows wild and generous, you invite others to step out of their old armor and taste the sweetness of new fruit. You offer them a living example that wholeness is possible, not because you're perfect, but because you keep the spring inside, you open, letting it flow out to whoever is thirsty enough to drink. You remind people that their story isn't over just because they've wandered in the wilderness for a while. New chapters can begin right where they stand, in the presence of living water, under the shelter of your steady branches. That's what your life gives. Restoration without fanfare, transformation without pressure. A way forward for anyone willing to let hope take root again. That's how you become a blessing, chosen one, not by striving to change the world, but by being the world's reminder that change is always possible and that new life is waiting beneath every patch of dry ground. Imagine someone who walks through life as if carrying a lantern that not only lights their own path, but suddenly reveals hidden passageways and open gates where others saw nothing but dead ends. This is the effect you have on the world around you. You aren't just moving forward, you're quietly shifting the landscape for everyone in your orbit, as if some gentle architect is sketching new blueprints the moment you arrive. It's a bit like watching a river change its course in real time, carving new ways through stone, not by force, but by persistent flow. You're the living proof that what seems immovable can be shaped by the steady current of vision and hope. Where people once believed the story had to go a certain way, limited by what's already been tried and failed, you show up and remind them that the script can always be rewritten. The doors they thought were locked forever? In your company, hidden latches appear, windows unlatch, and the air of possibility rushes in. People sometimes marvel at your luck, the way breaks seem to happen just when you need them. But what they're really seeing is a spiritual law in action. When someone truly trusts that more is possible, the universe itself bends to match that faith. You have learned to trust the nudges, to walk in expectation, and to see solutions where others have given up. The result is that what looked impossible, connections, opportunities, escapes, unfolds naturally around you, as if the fabric of reality is made pliable by your belief. But here's the deeper truth. Your influence isn't about always knowing what to do. It's about seeing past what everyone else has agreed is a wall, and trusting there must be a doorway somewhere if you just look with new eyes. That's why people around you begin to question their own limits. The old rules lose their grip, and the tired voices of defeat get drowned out by the quiet, steady hope you bring. And the most beautiful part? This current doesn't just bless you. It's contagious. People who spend time near you start catching that same vision. They find themselves making braver choices, asking bigger questions, refusing to settle for someone else's idea of what's possible. Your presence becomes an invitation. Let's see what else is out there. Let's believe for something better. It's like a fresh wind, moving through a room that's been closed up for years. At first it startles, then it enlivens, and before long, everyone is breathing easier. In your orbit, people remember what it feels like to have hope, to expect help, to welcome unexpected blessings. They join you in seeing possibilities where before they only saw problems, and together, you begin to redraw the map of what's possible for a whole community, even for a whole generation. What you bring is more than optimism. It's a blueprint from a place where limitations don't rule the day, where freedom is woven into the very atmosphere. You carry this code inside you, and it wakes up the same code in others, the ones who are ready to put down their old burdens and move forward into a new chapter. These are the kindred spirits, the co-creators who will help shape the next story for humanity. You don't have to force your way forward. You simply keep your lantern lit and your heart open, trusting that every seeming wall is just another invitation to discover the hidden door. As you do, the world keeps remaking itself, and those meant to walk beside you will feel the pull of your current. Together, you'll step into territory no one thought could be reached, making a new kind of history, one shaped not by fear, but by the quiet power of divine possibility. Behind every miracle is a message. Subscribe and discover them with us. Think of a great oak tree standing in a field, its branches outstretched, roots anchored deep in the unseen soil. This is what your presence becomes for those around you: a shelter, a signal, a living testament to what's possible when someone allows their spirit to be rooted in truth and stretched by love. Just as an oak doesn't grow for applause or titles, but simply because it cannot help but reach upward and outward, so you are guided not by recognition, but by the quiet certainty of your calling. Every gentle gesture you offer, each stand you take in the face of adversity, is like a root threading further into the ground, anchoring new strength where once there was only dust. You don't climb over others to get ahead. Instead, you dig in, you nourish the soil, you stabilize the earth for those who may have been shaken by storms. Your progress isn't just for you. It creates new terrain for those who wander behind, perhaps searching for a safe place to rest, to heal, to begin again. What you radiate isn't about status, and it isn't about control. It's about being a channel, an open window for fresh wind, a well for living water, a conduit for grace that lifts everyone a little higher. The influence you carry is quiet, but undeniable, woven into the fabric of daily moments. The smile you share with a stranger, the strength you offer a friend, the steady refusal to let bitterness take root even when life disappoints. In a world where so many are busy building ladders to nowhere, you offer something much more precious: a solid place to stand, a reminder that real authority flows from authenticity, and that the only approval worth seeking is the blessing that comes from aligning with what's true. The legacy you're leaving behind is not just in the grand gestures, but in the countless invisible ways you make it easier for others to live honestly and love bravely. You won't always see the seeds you plant bear fruit. Sometimes your greatest impact will be in lives you never meet, hearts you never know, journeys you set in motion with a single word or act of kindness. But the universe keeps a perfect record, and every act of grace adds to the architecture of a better world. A world built not on fear or competition, but on the enduring foundation of genuine connection and the unshakable power of living in alignment with the divine. Keep tending that inner garden. Keep saying yes to the voice of spirit that guides you deeper, and trust that what you are building will outlast any storm. Others will find their footing because you stood your ground. And in the end, that quiet trail of courage and kindness will be the greatest monument, a living testimony to the truth that real greatness is measured by the hearts we help set free. Picture an old lighthouse standing at the edge of a restless sea, its light unwavering, its foundation sure, even as storms roar and tides shift. This is the quiet power of your presence in the world. You don't set out each day seeking to prove your importance or ring your own bell. You simply shine, and by shining, you become a guide for those drifting in fog, a signal of safety and possibility to anyone lost and searching for home. Every dawn, the lighthouse doesn't compete with the sun or worry about being seen by every ship. It just fulfills its nature, glowing steadily, certain that somewhere in the dark, someone needs exactly that steady beam. In much the same way, your significance grows not from striving, but from alignment, living awake to the calling that moves through your heart. You don't push your way to the front or scramble for the spotlight. Instead, your spirit becomes like that light, a quiet, continual offering of direction, hope, and reassurance. You carry the melody of return in your voice and in your presence, a song older than memory, yet always fresh. People around you may not always recognize its source, but they feel the shift. A weary friend finds courage in your listening. A stranger at the grocery store feels seen, if only for a moment, and remembers that kindness still lives in the world. You don't have to raise your voice or make grand declarations. Your very existence becomes a hymn of hope that cuts through the noise and reminds even the most discouraged souls that light still shines. You don't have to keep track of every heart you touch or every life you brighten. Spirit keeps the count. All you're called to do is keep burning bright, keep singing the song, and know that in a world desperate for hope and healing, your life is the living melody calling people back to the shore of their own true selves.